S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. As we jump in here first, the Nasdaq obviously stuck in a range as we go into this week. But we had a pretty good balance going into Thursday, into Friday, and then ultimately Friday we got that really bad drop that overall took place there. Now the one thing I do want to highlight is you're still trading within the range. So getting in a clear direction, getting a clear all out into longs is kind of crazy because you don't have confirmation really in either direction. But I would say even more so to the downside. If I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want to go short, I'm just saying you're clearly holding your support over and over. This is not a hour chart, 2 hour. This is a daily chart. So you've sat here since essentially mid-February in a sideways trend. And you're consolidating at all-time highs. You have had retracements in the past, going back July through almost September, which led to the massive break. You had consolidation at highs in which you shot up further. But there's no reason here to constitute for me to go short as of right now. Now, as I go into more detail, I think it gives a better viewpoint. But looking at the S&P, looking at SPY, a little bit of a pullback, but still you're in the same spot as well since, early March, still making higher highs, higher lows. Now, if you break below 508 on the SPY, I could get behind the idea of going short. But until then, I don't understand, especially here on Qs above 432, 432.8. Now, this is the reason why you're dipping. Now, there's been two causes. Let me go over both really quick. Okay. Essentially since the beginning of the year, not even since, the past week, beginning of the year. Beginning of the year, we dipped because of the UAE going into BRICS, right? In Saudi Arabia. And then we had another dip with what happened with the first Iraq attack on Israel, right? That first little thing that took place, Hamas, Hezbollah, all that. Now, again, besides that, the only time we've dipped is the idea that we're not going to cut rates, and then we bounce back every single time. Now, I can read through the comments on the channel, and I see people like, Tyler, you're perma bullish. Well, I'm just going to say right now, guys, I'm not perma bullish, but when this is the trend, when I zoom out, I'm just saying if we're mounted above previous all-time highs from 2021, 2022, is there a reason for me to get bearish yet? I might be doing some drugs if that's the case, and I don't promote drug use here on the channel. Okay, so yeah. So when we zoom back in here, it's important to identify where we're at. Now let's jump into what's happening on the news, and then we'll go back into the technicals. Now, number one, the whole idea of why we were dropping on Friday was everyone knew that there was gonna be an attack, Iran on Israel, based on what happened with the Syria embassy or whatever was happening there, the consulate. Well, Iran sent a barrage of attacks, and nearly all of them were intercepted by who? It wasn't just Israel that intercepted them and negated them. It was help from the UK, help from the United States of America. Again, the United States did help defend. Now, I want to make this next part very clear. The U.S. will not take part in retaliation towards Iran from the White House. Okay, so this is the interesting part of what's taking place here. Is we're claiming to not be involved, but we are actively helping defend, which I'm neither for or against, nothing like that. So just highlighting what's taking place and why the market is reacting to this, because we are involved whether you want to admit it or not. Next up, Russia. Russia has been pretty clear on this. Now, I've seen fake news that says if, America gets involved, Russia's going to step in, yada, yada, yada. Right? Nothing's really confirming that from the news presser so far. But what has been said is Putin and Russia are saying, we express our extreme concern over another dangerous escalation in that region. We call for all parties, not just Israel, to exercise restraint. They did want to highlight that the reason, and this is not logical, this is what they're saying. Russia noted that Tehran said that the attack that they made, which really did nothing, it was a pretty much wasted attack, did nothing, trash. You went to a fight with spears and other people have guns. Was made within the right of self-defense after Israel's strike on Iranian consulate in Damascus. So as of right now, nothing goes further here. It seems like this could kind of just blow over. Now, again, we're going to see what happens, but it's very important to understand, despite another war breakout, despite we're not getting rate cuts, what is happening with the stock market, people? What is actually happening here? You are sitting sideways. You are not breaking down. Sellers are not stepping in. We go to Yahoo. We go look at what's happening here based on volume. I mean, you had some increased volume, but no, sellers couldn't break you down. Like, really, what is actually taking place here? That's what we have to be able to identify. So when we look at the stats, what's happening here, it's important to understand as we even bring up the levels here. Like, you still have more support as we drop down. Like, sellers are doing nothing. Volume is relatively abysmal from sellers too. You're getting no follow through. It's pretty tragic, all things considered, on the Nasdaq and the SPY, right? So again, if we break lows, then yes, I jump onto the side of men. Let's get some shorts down maybe to 497, 500. I could see that playing out, but we haven't had a logical reason to go short yet. My opinion, right? You'll have the opportunities if you break those lows, but until then, you're just getting too aggressive and wasting your time. Okay, worth mentioning. Okay, also too, want to give a special shout out right now. Sponsor of the channel, Moo. Give them a look if you're interested. Where I do all my trading, where I'm making all my options, everything like that. It's all on the platform. You can see all their promos. The link is down below, so make sure you tap in, check them out. They support the channel. We've had like a year-long deal with these guys, so I'm really happy about that. We'll be flying into the Nasdaq for the opening, I believe like the 29th, 28th. So either way, I appreciate you guys. Check them out. The link is down below. So again, that's what we're looking at here with the S&P specifically. Okay. And I just want to hide volume. It just gets a little bit clunky when I have all that up. But again, I'm not saying that you can't get bearish. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying at this moment, we are jumping the gun, right? Until we break, it's the same thing. The upside is the same thing as the downside. You have to break down, right? And let's invert the chart here. Like really invert this chart. And like, is this chart necessarily like bullish? Like if I, just flipped it upside down, but like, is this necessarily like, if I look at this, am I expecting major upside? Like we broke the downward channel, but like, is there confirmation? Like, is it actually like happening here? And those are things that you have to be able to think about, right? And we look at things through a biased lens sometimes, and it is what it is. And this looks like already like it wants to just keep on dropping, right? So things to be looking at, things that I'm looking at right now. Now, on the other side of that, some of the concerns, the dollar continues to rip. Okay. That's a concern. Definitely a risk off environment when I look at that. 30-year yield continues up, probably follows the dollar back to the upside. Now, the biggest thing I'll talk about here, though, is we look at PPI and CPI. I've gone over that data. I've gone over what the Fed has said. And really, when we look at this week, as far as the economic calendar, it's just like a lot of Fed members talking. And I will say, although there are concerns about inflation potentially rising back, if you look at the data, rates are doing their job. It's that simple. People are going to get upset. They're going to be like, well, flat CPI is not moving in their direction. Well, if you look at CPI, are rates going to, bring down energy prices? No, they're not. Everything else that they're bringing down, right? That they need to, right? So those are things that we're looking at. You have Fed GPT, GDP from Atlanta coming in on Tuesday. That'll be interesting. But again, primarily just a bunch of Fed members here on the week. That's the biggest thing you're going to see here. Fed member after Fed member after Fed member all talking this week. And one thing that I will highlight as well, I don't think the Fed is going to say things during a time like right now with, the geopolitical tensions happening right now, these proxy wars, everything like this. Just like before, they're going to watch what they say based on what's happening to the market. Again, they're not going to pour more gas on the downside. They're just not going to do it. Now, on the other side, Bitcoin, I'm not going to lie, pretty awesome opportunity. I'm thinking of Bitcoin halving in like 6 days. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of your best opportunities. We look here, really. So Bitcoin really not doing too much when you're holding 64K. That's awesome. But like look at like some of these other cryptos. Solana, major dip down below 140. Crazy to me. AVAX, these are just some of the cryptos that I like, so do what you want with this. I'm not telling you to buy or anything, but like AVAX down to the 200 SMA at $32. Crazy, absurd, can't believe how cheap it is. Honestly, nuts, guys. This what's happening here is nuts. Ethereum dropped down to probably this is one of the biggest potential plays here too. Near 3,000, dropped down to like 2,800. I want to highlight right now, guys. With what's happening potentially with Ethereum getting the ETF, if the ETF passes on Ethereum, it's gonna explode. So worth mentioning. I also want to highlight too, Goldman, Bitcoin, right? If you don't know, Goldman, Citigroup, Citadel, guess what? All the big players near the top, guess what? They're buying more Bitcoin. They're getting in on the ETFs. I just want to highlight that as well. So like, I think I'm not telling everyone go like YOLO on Bitcoin. I'm not saying that, but I find it coincidental that everyone's freaking out about the market and Bitcoin and this and that. And it seems like all the big players are just buying more. Isn't that like funny? Warren Buffett, you got to be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. no truer words right now. So things that I'd be looking at overall. Again, I'm not going to go over too many specific names. I'll go over more tomorrow, but that's how I'm looking at the market. I look at this and I hate to say I'm excited because of what's happening like in the world right now. It is like sad and like that's just what it is. But like when I look at like the dip across the market, specifically like with Bitcoin stuff, I just get excited. And then I look at what's happening with the stock market, and I think you're just getting more opportunities. I genuinely do. Now, like, do some positions hurt? Yeah. But I'm also not focused on day trading in this range here on the Nasdaq. We say this all the time. This type of movement, when you're trading sideways, that's where you lose all your money. It's just where you lose your money. This movement here, when you're trading in a clear-cut range to like an upside, higher highs and higher lows, that's where you make all your money, right? Even to the downside, you can make your money there. But it's just like when you start focusing on trading this chop and you're not making higher highs or lower lows, you just don't make anything. Like you're just putting yourself in a losing position, right? Even if like you're in our Discord, things along those lines, you're not going to see me trade a lot during these times. And like when people join maybe the beginning of the month, they're like, man, this is just not that much trading. I mean, what I will talk about is I'm only trying to take really good, awesome setups. That's what I will say. When you're in a period of just consolidation, specifically on tech, right? You'll get your opportunities on NQ and sometimes on AMD and some of these other like semiconductors. But for the most part, I have to slow down because I only talk about what I'm doing in the market, guys. I can only make that so clear. I can only trade I only post what I'm trading or what Jay's trading, right? There's no like secret agenda, right? And so when people say, well, how do you win? It's like, well, we just trade what good opportunities are. We don't over trade. You're not going to see us taking 7 trades in a day. So again, if you're over trading, guys, I really recommend that you sit down, you journal, go over your trades, go over what's happened, and try to learn from that, guys. Especially I learn the most when I lose, personally. Because I understand that I don't want to lose. So I try to figure out what the problem is and what I'm doing wrong. If you have questions, comment down below. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.